Welcome back to Unfiltered with Reyes and Victor, the podcast where two longtime friends share honest conversation about disability, life, content creation, and everything in between. Today we're taking you behind the scenes of something we both do on our separate platform, bringing guests onto our podcast. People usually see the finished interview, but they don't always see everything that happens before we hit record. How do we discover potential guests? What makes someone a good fit? How do we reach out to them? How much preparation goes into an interview, and what happens when someone doesn't respond at all or says not interested or no, basically. In this episode, we're breaking down our individual systems, comparing how we select guests, and sharing the challenges and lessons that come with interviewing people from different backgrounds. Let's get into it. Can first Victor's gonna start obviously. The co-host always has to start. Can each of us explain what our separate channels are about and the types of guests we normally interview? So you have to start first. What guests you normally bring and stuff.
So you want me to talk about? He didn't even introduce me. Horrible. I'm giving you a hard time.
Horrible.
I'm
Horrible
give,
that you need to do that. I
what,
do
what
mine.
what was what was the question?
Tell us about what's your separate channel about and what guests you normally bring.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. So that's a great question. I love messing with this guy. But so
He
the
likes messing
guest
around with the podcast, so I'm fine with it. I'll let him.
Yes, so my podcast is Become the Victor podcast, and I bring individuals from all walks of life, whether you have a disability or whether you don't. So far, I have interviewed over like roughly 25 guests. No, like closer to 30 actually. And
30, damn.
close to 30 guests already, and give or take, maybe a little bit less, a little more. But anyhow, I have interviewed people from Guinness World Record holders to people with multiple with different disabilities, such as Duchenne muscular dystrophy. I interviewed Afonso. I interviewed a best-selling author who has SMA type 3. I've interviewed a Guinness World Record holder who has his legs amputated. I've interviewed America's Got Talent finalists. I've interviewed American Idol contestants, Beast Games contestants, several of them actually. I recently just interviewed, and I would give a little spoiler here. I haven't even shared this on my own social profiles or anywhere, but I recently interviewed someone where their story actually was a Netflix film. I'll leave it at that. Just interviewed someone with that, so that one's pretty cool. And yeah, I interview people from all sorts of lives. So the main goal and message of the podcast is any individual that has turned any form of a trial into a triumph or any form of a test into a testimony. And the message is profound but simple. Become the victor within your own story.
Alright, alright. For me, it's like more focused on people with disability. The main channel, it's about muscular dystrophy, but I also interview people from different disabilities. So it's like not one disability, not just mine. Focus on every disability, because everybody has a story, even though some have the same disability, but they have a complete different story from what I have shared.
Yeah.
Why did you decide to start bringing guests on your platform?
So there's two reasons here. Is I recently became a published author this year of January 2026 of a book called Become the Victor: Turning Trials into Triumph. Now, I have always aspired to start my own podcast, but I've never actually fully entertained that thought in executing that idea. It wasn't until my book was published that I really started to entertain that thought. And me and you actually had a conversation talking about, hey, we should start a podcast and yeah, and this and that. And we just never like quite fully done it yet, right? And me and you talked about this, I want to say like November, December of 2025. So the end of last year.
Yeah,
Well, when the new year happened and when the book got published, then I started really entertaining, okay, you should start a podcast. Now, of course, the thought comes into mind, okay, what's the podcast name going to be? What is it going to be about? How am I going to bring guests? What type of guests do I want? What type of audience do I want to attract? All these different questions I had to think, sit with and think about. And it was just a light bulb moment. Victor, why don't you start a podcast? The title of your book, Become the Victor. Okay, who am I going to be reaching out? Turn individuals who have turned their trials into triumph, who have turned their test into a testimony. It was a light bulb moment, it was a full circle moment, and so it was a little bit of a marketing tactic. So when people look up my name or people look up Become the Victor, they come across the book, they come across the podcast. People come across the podcast, people also come across the book, and then which also all points to me as well. So so that's how that kind of all like came into fruition.
All right. For me, it was like it started from a nice mental health journey that took me to YouTube, and with the help of my co-host here, Victor, was able to start a channel. And then I decided to relaunch a channel under a different name, which you guys already know, which is Muscular Dystrophy Warrior, which I thought I was like, I knew what I wanted to. I had like a vision this time. Because the other time it was like I was not really giving it 100, so I was like, I know I can do better and stuff. I know I can do, make a better platform, something bigger than myself.
Yeah. You should touch on that just like a little bit. Is like for people coming across like you for the first time, right? Is like you were navigating this season called isolation with your mental health journey. And with your mental health journey, you sought help and that's when you came across YouTube. YouTube gave you purpose. Should like share that story, like give a quick brief about it.
Well, a quick brief was like I was a college student. First, I went to my local community college here in Fresno, California. Then I went to a 4-year university, same location. And for those that have been to college or the university, you guys know it sometimes lacks, you know, assistance. You get the assistance in the classroom, but outside the classroom, basically you're alone. So the accommodation were not that great outside the classroom. So that's why I had to step away. Then obviously isolation came into play. Then you guys are like I said right now. Then YouTube came into a time when I needed something, some motivation. YouTube came in that spot. So that's how I would briefly explain it.
Yeah. That I want you to like share that because like people are coming across you for the first time, right? They get like an idea about like the impact that this platform had for you.
Yeah, I see what you mean. Now, question: How do you usually discover potential guests? Like, what's your method? How do you find these guests?
So for me is my algorithm is I set up my algorithm. A lot of people have this perceived interpretation of social media that it's unhealthy for you, and it can be, and there are definitely a lot of stuff that is unhealthy for you. However, I do believe that an individual does play a very vital role in how their algorithm
Now, can
is
I
and
interrupt
becomes.
you? Can I interrupt about the social media stuff? Yeah,
Yeah.
it can be harmful. Like I always say, everything's addictive, But you have to like depending how you see it. Social media can be addictive, but if you can control it, like everything. Like for those, I don't know, those that drink energy drinks, it's like
Yeah.
some drink five, six of them. Some just drink once in a while, or those that smoke cigarettes. They do how many boxes per day, and some just do it once in a while. Or when they drink or anything you do.
Yeah.
Gaming, TV, eating, everything is like an addiction, but if you can manage it, not make it turn into that. I say that because when I went to therapy, they're like, I forgot what I asked, and she's like, it's normal as long as it doesn't control your life. It doesn't take over like all your activity. I forgot what I asked. I think it was something personal that I asked my therapist. She's like, there's nothing wrong with I have. I think it was like depression or something. I
Hmm.
forgot what it was, but she's like, you don't have that. She's like, as long as it doesn't control you, you are good. So that's how I feel like social media
Yeah. You
is
definitely
as well.
like. you have a choice, and those choices create habits, right? Like 9 out of 10 times you control your algorithm. Social media's main intention and primary focus is to keep you on their platform as long as possible.
Right.
So, which
Like
is
the
why
casino,
it's like
you
a casino,
you
right?
win, you win. Like I seen a couple of topics of they're comparing to a casino, or the hammer. It's like they have to do their job. They're just promoting the food, fast food. It's not like they're putting like saying like, oh, you have to buy it because you have to, because you see it there. They just do things to draw your attention.
Yeah. So where I'm going with that is social media's platform is to keep you addicted. So, or keep you on their platform as long as
Keep you
possible.
like for
So
example, going there with the casino. You start winning. They're like your mind goes. I took psychology. They explained that to me. It's like how they click the screen. They say it's not gonna help you win. It's like something that does to your mind. The casino wants you to keep you there. They're like, if you keep winning, your mind be like, I can keep doing this. You start going like I'm not gonna lose ever, and then you keep playing, and then you keep losing until you hit. Addictive to it.
mhm.
So I feel like
But
that's
yeah,
how it is.
it just keeps you um it just keeps you addictive. That's the socialist platform or main primary focus. So
Right.
for me, it's I control my algorithm to a certain extent. So my content, my algorithm primarily feeds me motivational and inspirational content. So it automatically shows me these individuals. So it's pretty simple for me to find these individuals, and then the hard part is just simply just reaching out to these individuals.
Yeah, same here, same here. Like for me, it's all about disability. Everybody like has a disability or advocacy work or do something like that. Or sometimes I get guests from I'm in certain groups that have muscular dystrophy, so I see parents, individual post stuff sometimes. Sometimes I see an individual posts that they have their own YouTube channel. Sometimes I shared I have shared stuff like a couple of times. So that's how I have found people. And
Mhm.
some of the people I have crossed paths all live here. So that's another method I use or
Yeah.
stuff. All right, let's go to the other question. What qualities make someone stand out as a good guest?
As a good guest, that's a great question. What quality is a
I
good
mean, if you
guest?
don't have an answer, I can go first. Like for me, it's like I look at their content and I see if it stands out. There has to be one reel, one post that stands out.
Yeah.
It's like like their point of view. If I find like their point of view is interesting, like this is a different point of view. I focus on giving people different point of views because everybody has different points of view. Even if you have the same disability, it's not going to be the same answer. I have heard like a million different answers throughout my 15 interviews that I have done.
Yeah. So for me, I look at so I go to their profile, and I have to see what is something that they have gone through and where are they currently. So
Right.
for example, I've interviewed entrepreneurs who generated over a $250 million. So when I interview these guests, when I come across these entrepreneurs, I see the cars, the mansions, the lifestyle, right? The luxurious lifestyle. But I don't just want those individuals. I'm like, okay, did they come from money or did they start it from the ground up? And then when I find that, then I reach out to them. And, that's for like entrepreneurs. And if I'm finding other individuals who turned a test into a testimony, then it's all about, okay, what hardship did you have to go through? For example, one of my recent guests, he was on the run for 13 months as a fugitive for attempted homicide. But I found his story so powerful is because yes, spoke about him being he being a fugitive and being on the run for 13 months, where he was one of the most wanted individuals here in the States. So when I interviewed him, I found his story impactful because he went from going from that to becoming a mindset coach, educating the youth and other individuals to help transform their lives so they do not repeat his mistakes. They do not repeat what changed his life. He doesn't want other individuals to have to go to that depth of a negative life altering experience. He tries to prevent it by giving them the tools and the resources that he wish he had. So, I seek individuals like that, which turn, a test into a testimony.
Yeah, I see what you mean. I see what you mean. Yes, for me, like it's like how they speak about disability, and stuff. I don't focus on. That's what I focus on, what they speak on, about disability. How they speak it. Are they advocates or whatever.
Yeah.
Is a guest story more important than the size of their social media following? Like I don't honestly, from my opinion, I don't focus on the following. Even they have a big following, but even if they have a big following, I focus more on the story, how they tell their story. How they talk about, is their story like impactful. The number doesn't matter to me. It's like I've interviewed guests. All my guests have been like low numbers, but they have a powerful story.
Yeah.
You know, I feel like even though they have a big following, sometimes their story is not that powerful. And
Right.
I reached out to guests that obviously I didn't get a response back. I follow up and I did it. They had a bigger following, but their story is interesting at the
Yeah.
same time.
Yeah. For me, I've interviewed people who had the few hundred followers, or audience or supporters to a few million. So to me, the audience size doesn't matter. It's all about the story. But again, I'm more focused on, okay, you know, like everyone has a story at the end of the day, but not everyone overcomes parts of their story. For example, like you went through isolation. Not everyone goes through a mental health moment, right? And overcomes it. You sought therapy and you got better. Me, I was on a psychiatric hold. I had my own mental health crisis experience, right? Where I know what depression is like. I do not want to seek inspiration or seek individuals who are depressed, right? And didn't overcome depression. I want to seek out inspiration or seek out individuals, I mean to say, from individuals who have, for example, like myself, been depressed and overcame that season, because that's where real transformation comes from. That's how you really begin to help people. And I also want to highlight that even if you are in that season and you haven't quite overcame it, it doesn't mean that, your story is less valuable. I just I just want to be that individual for someone like yourself who may be in that season, to be like, hey, this person, I have been there, or this person has been where you are, and this is what they did to overcome it. Now that's what I want to do. I want to reach those individuals.
Okay, I like the answer. How do you decide whether someone fits the purpose of your channel?
How do I decide the how do I decide
Whether
what?
someone whether someone fits the purpose of your channel.
Again, it focus is getting to know their story, doing research. So I'll find individuals. Okay, like, what's your story? What did you go through? And if it's on Instagram, some people, like, more so my algorithm, people create reels where it shows their story, and so you get to see these individuals. Okay, this person, for example, is navigating cancer, and now they're making a massive impact. This person is gone from dirt poor, struggling, just living off of rice and beans, to, now they are a multimillionaire and taking care of their family. So I find these individuals because, especially on Instagram, is usually their bio will say something inspirational or motivational or
Yeah,
highlights a part of their story or some part of transformation.
yeah.
And then that hooks my
Hmm.
attention. And then I look
Or
more
what
into
they
that.
do, like for me, like I have had people with the disability, for like what disability they're having, what they do, what they're doing. Like if they're an author, if they're a content creator, they put it, so that's what draws more the attention for me.
Yeah.
What they're doing. All right, the next question: do you use the same invitation for everyone, or you do each message depending on the person?
That's a great question too.
No,
So
because I
I
asked that
do.
question because people might be like, oh, they just all they do is copy and paste, but I don't. Like I put each individual gets a specific email this Instagram message, DM. They all
Yeah.
get us something else, and not everyone gets the same thing. From me, that's my idea.
So for me, what I do, because I mean I don't do it now. I things kind of slowed down a little bit just because I gone from being underbooked to overbooked. But in the very beginning, I would literally send out a minimum 100 DMs and emails every single day. Now, in order to be that efficient, it's simply copy and paste. But the only thing I would do is I would make it personalized in terms of adding their name, putting in that effort. So I'll be like, "Hey, Alfonso," and then talk about the podcast and what exactly is the
Yeah,
message about.
I do the same thing. Like I put the name of the person, or if it's two individuals, or it's like a family, like family. I'll look at their last name. So and so. If it's an individual, I'll just be like, "Hey, your name," and I'll introduce myself.
Yeah.
My name, my age, where I'm from, and what do I do. Why am I reaching out?
Yeah. And I do that. And the only reason why I don't do it the other way, making it personalized for everyone, is just because 9 out of 10 of those individuals you're not going to hear back from. So I'm wasting time and I'm wasting a lot of opportunity. Time is effort, and having, disability like ours is not the most wisest thing in my
Yes.
opinion. And
So
um and
for
and
me,
but
like,
however, when I do get a reply from these individuals, then they do get a personalized response where
yeah,
they
for
actually hear
me,
from me personally through a voice message.
Yeah, for me, like I'll use certain days that I'm not creating content to find guests. So that's how I do it, so I don't get tired. There's a certain day that I'm focused on just looking for guests.
Yeah.
Next question: which outreach methods works best for you? Email, Instagram, Facebook, anything else?
For me is I would say Instagram. Instagram and email. So what I do again, I go through Instagram, and then my algorithm shows
Yeah,
the
same.
people I'm interested in already.
Mhm.
Simply copy and paste kind of style, and then of course
Right.
just edit their name into it.
Yeah, for
But if
me,
their
like
email is in it, then I will go the extra mile and do that as well.
yeah, because for me, like I always look for an email. If they don't have an email, I mean, I'll go straight to DM. So I always either one of those for me are
Yeah.
email or Instagram.
But if their email is there, I'll do both. I'll maximize opportunity, and then I'll
Yeah,
send follow-up message.
I'll send an email then follow up. Obviously,
Yeah.
I'll wait a few days, like 5 or 6 days or a couple of days. I'll
Yeah.
give them a few days. Because you never know. I've had a
And then I'll
guest like
comment on their page too. I mentioned that too.
yeah,
Forgot.
same like I do the same thing if I see like a certain video. I'm like, hey, I want to have it because I like what you do and this and that. I
Yeah.
mean, I never haven't had nobody comment down for it. It's like I'd still take my chance and see what happens. I'm like
Yeah.
maybe one of those like I'd get their attention.
Yeah. My mentality is I would rather be ignored or rejected than be like, oh, they're not going to reply.
Yeah, like I always comment. I'm like comment. I'm like click and copy, and then I'm like comment and
Yeah.
wait and see what happens. I always do that. I have like several that I do like for several of individuals, not just one, two, like several.
Yeah.
All right, how do you handle someone not responding to your invitation?
I move on. That's like the like that's like the
Yeah,
most simplest answer. I don't think about it.
yeah,
I
but
just
wait,
just
but
just
there's
move
other
on.
people
But
that
I
you know
do
how they.
send follow-up messages though. But I'm not
Yeah,
like stuck on like, oh,
I
what happened to
mentioned
you?
that because there's so many creators that have been accused of doing stuff like that. Overdoing it. That's why I mentioned that so
Yeah.
people
There's
can see
like
that.
8 billion people in this world. Trust me, I'm not focused on just that one individual that said
Yeah,
that.
but I'm like, what I was trying to say. Show how we see it. I don't do that either. Like, I'll
Yeah.
move. I have like several. Like, I even created a list. Like, I go down the list. I'm like, okay, this one didn't respond. Next, next, next. I like this one was a little bit busier because I already had so many guests. Some replied, some didn't. It was like 50-50.
Yeah.
50% replied, 50 didn't. So I'm like, then I had like so many interviews. Some of them I had to like. I was like, can we do it some other day? 'Cause right now I'm booked. I have three. Like this week I had like three.
Yeah.
So if any guests reply to my messages, I'll be like, can we do it in August? Because right now I have a lot to do.
Yeah. And even too, keep in mind is you can, I mean, this is what I do. For example, I have a medical procedure coming up. So I don't know what to expect. Is I will pre-record and have episodes preset like 4 to 6 weeks in advance.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, 'cause I have more time on it. When I have an appointment or something like that, do it like earlier.
Mhm.
I had it before, like a week before, and just schedule them out, throughout the week.
Yeah.
How many times? Oh, you already answered that one. Once a guest agrees, what are the next steps in your process?
So what I do is I'll send them a message. Hey, this is the reason. This is the purpose for this DM. I give them a brief about who I am. I really don't say too much about who I am. They can Google me, but at the end of my signature, it does say author of Become the Victor. So
Yeah, I
that
mean,
shows credibility.
If you Google my co-host, it'll come up who he is.
Yeah, that shows credibility. And then that and the press release is today is definitely going to start helping as well. But so then after that, and when people are interested, then I'll send them more. Then I'll say, ask me to send you more information. And then they say, send me more details. I send them more details. And those details is what gets them to my calendar. And then that calendar shows them, the availability and Zoom link and all that
Yeah,
other extra stuff.
for me, I explain who I am in the first email. Then they tell me, or yeah, I would like to be a guest, and then we'll move from there. We'll move to the next step, like figuring out what time zone you are, what time works for both of us in a
Yeah.
day, and I'll give you possible dates. And if you want more information, obviously I'll give it to you, depending. Or I'll give you like, oh, you can find me here, Send you a link so you can see my video, get an idea how I do things.
Yeah.
How do you create questions that are specific to each guest?
So in the very beginning, I would script out everything. I script out the introduction, I script out the questions, I script out the beginning, the middle, and the end. Everything was scripted. It was very little to like humanized conversation. Until it was like like less than 10 episodes, someone enlightened me extremely early on and said, "Hey man, why don't you just drop the script? Drop the formalities. Let's just you and I have a humanized conversation." And that episode it was an hour and a half and it's uploaded on my podcast, but I trimmed it down to 13 minutes just because that conversation went completely off brand, off the message I wanted to highlight. But the message that they gave me, I don't know if it's within, no, I think it was after the recording. I don't think it was on the recording. But they shared that with me, and oh, this was before we started recording. They shared that. Hey, what are you looking at? And then I told them, they're like, drop the script. Let's just have a humanized conversation. So I'm going with that is the only thing that is scripted is introduction, just because I don't want to overlook anything. And that inspiration came from Logan Paul when he does his impulsive interviews. And then it's just a humanized conversation with me and the guest
Yeah,
for about 30 to 40.
yeah, I like how he does his stuff. That's why I got the idea. Like that's why I
Yeah,
want to do a podcast like him. That's
like
why,
like
like
30.
like we talked about like the text messaging. You remember?
Yeah.
There's like you talk one on one. It's not the same.
Yeah, so then it's just a 30 to an hour, 30 minutes to an hour conversation, whatever their time preference is. And
Right.
then they let me know. And then it's a humanized conversation. But now I started incorporating where I do draft up a few questions that I ask them towards the end of the episode. And then I do a series called Rapid Fire Questions, which also is pre-scripted, pre-written, I should say. And then I get into the introduction and things like that. But I just focus on a humanized conversation because I feel like this is just for me personally, is I feel when you script it too much, you sound too robotic. And I feel like your audience sees that and feels that disconnect. Whereas like you and I, for example, like on when we film our episodes
Like for me,
on
like
my
when
YouTube channel, it's no
talking about
script.
For me, like I'll just ask a prompt question, then we have a conversation. Like right now,
Yeah.
that's my style. I'll script it, but once I ask the question, I let the person answer, and then we just have a conversation. I've had a lot of interviews like that, where I ask one question and it turns into a 15-20 minute conversation about that topic.
Yeah. And it's a double, and I want to highlight too, it's a double-edged sword, doing it the way that I do it because one, me having no script is I missed the chance of opportunity of like, dang, I should have asked this. I should have touched in on,
Oh,
on,
I see
on this
what you mean.
question. I
Yeah,
forgot to bring this up, right? It's a double-edged sword.
exactly.
But it's also more beneficial because I feel, at least for me, is I get to dive into, they get to lead the conversation. Meaning, I ask them, "Hey, what's your story?" They start talking, and then one topic leads into another, into another, into another. With, of course, in the back of my mind is the primary focus of, okay, what's the transformation that came out of that?
Yeah, I see what you mean. For me, it's like how the person is. If they give me short answers, I'm like, okay, they don't want to give long answers. That's why the conversation moves faster.
Yeah.
But if I see the flow, like the person actually engaging in the question, I'm like, I engage back. So for me, it depends how I see the person, how I see my guest.
Yeah.
That's just me. How do you make guests feel comfortable before recording?
So before every episode, I send them an email and I say, "Is there anything I could make you most comfortable?" Whether it's me talking about a particular topic. I ask my guest, "Is there anything you want me to highlight? Is there anything you do not want me to talk about?" Something I shy away on my topics are going fully in depth on religious beliefs and also going fully in depth on politics. Religion and politics, I don't think they should be discussed at a dinner table in a metaphorical context. But I do ask my individuals, okay, how can I make you most comfortable? Most of them say, "Oh, we're set. Like, there's really nothing you can do," right? But the best advice I can give for anyone who is interested in podcasting or just becoming an overall better conversationalist is listen with the intention to understand. Do not listen with the intention just to reply.
All right, all right. Yeah, for me, like I always ask, you guys have a question, comment before we start, or anything before the interview as well. They can change whatever they want to the questions, can remove whatever they want me to add, take out, and stuff.
Mhm.
I'll do whatever, they make them feel comfortable. And they all have appreciated. That's why you can tell, like, when you're a good guest. Everybody still reaches out, like, oh, we like how you did everything. Thank you for making us feel comfortable. Everybody seems to be happy the way I do, how I treat my guests.
Yeah. And the way one person does one thing, like, doesn't mean you have to do the exact
You
replication
know,
of it.
for me,
Like,
like,
you
I want to be different.
develop your own thing to it, like that's what makes
Yeah,
you you, right?
yeah. So that's why I do that. Like, I want to be different from it. I want to be different from every content creator. I want to just be me, have my own style, and be like, oh, he's different from the rest of the pack.
Yeah.
All right.
You want you
What
want
do?
to you want to be able to roll into a room and they're like, "That's Papi Chulo."
Okay, okay. That's not a wheelchair user.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. All right. What do you do when technical difficulty happens? And you know how they happen.
Yes.
Have you had it or no? Because I had it.
I had
I had.
technical difficulties in terms of like slow internet connection with my
Yeah.
guests.
Funny
Yeah.
thing is, my connection doesn't work with Victor.
Yeah, me and him actually have a lot of technical difficulties, which is very
I had
interesting.
technical difficulties today. You cut the mic cut several times in the interview.
Seriously, in your conversation?
Yeah.
Oh, that sucks. Damn.
No, but I'm like, first interview that it does, I'm like, oh, it does it with Victor. I was like, damn. But we managed to figure it out. It wasn't
Oh,
like a long, it was just a few minutes. And then I got closer,
yeah.
because they couldn't hear that question. It cut off. So I'm like, damn, I
Mm,
don't know what. We just continue. I'm like, I'm leaving it like that. Because
Yeah.
like it wasn't like a very long one. It was just a few minutes. Then we continue.
Yeah. I just for me it's usually just slow connection with my guest, which is completely understandable.
Yeah,
Right?
that was it too. It
Um
was a little
and
slow for them.
you just
The
gotta
only
like
guess.
bear
Mhm.
through it.
Yeah, I see what you mean.
Yeah.
How do you keep an interview conversation instead of making it feel like a list of questions? I know we talked about that. That's why you don't script it, right?
I think for me personally is I've just always been a good listener, and I think that just comes with the territory of being surrounded by a lot of individuals who just love to talk. So like it's hard. It's like I've always, if you listen, Simon Sinek, I believe is how you pronounce his last name. He's a best-selling author and serial entrepreneur, mindset coach, and things like that. But he talked about it in a book. He says the best conversationalists are those who listen a large majority of the time. Like 90% of the conversation is just listening. 10% of the time is you doing the talking.
Yeah.
And if you notice when you have conversations with people, all you do is ask a question, they start talking because no one, at the end of the day, nobody loves at the end of the day, everybody loves to talk about themselves, right? That's why a lot of people do it. Now, when you become that individual that flips the script where you're like, I don't care about to share. I don't care about to tell you what I'm doing, right? I want to know how you're doing. What are you doing?
Right.
Right? It makes people feel good because they're not used to that. So when you come with that approach, you instantly have their attention and they instantly become much more comfortable communicating with you.
I mean, I think it's true because for me, like I'll listen to the guests. Like I always, some are worried like how long can I take? And I'm like, take your time, take your
Yeah.
time, I'll listen. And if I had
Uh,
to add something, I'm like, take your time, I'll be here, like I'll listen to your story. And if I had to add something, like, hey, can I interrupt you? I like what you said. I agree with what you said and stuff like that. So I'll listen.
yeah.
So I'm like, take your time, I'll be listening to you guys and see if there's a follow up question in that same question.
Yeah.
So it doesn't feel like a question; it feels like a conversation. Like I said, I have had all my interviews. There's always not all of them. There've been a couple that no, but some of them have led to a different conversation.
Mhm.
All
Yeah,
right, what is
it's just a normal conversation with again the primary focus of me leading towards the transformation in different parts of the story.
what is the most challenging part of bringing guests onto your channel?
Now I have a little bit more credibility, so it's a little bit different. In the very beginning, it would be starting new, and people would be like, "Oh yes, I'm interested," and then you're sitting in front of your camera, you're waiting for them to come on the recording, and they don't show up. So I've had no shows. I've had people that became interested and ignored me afterwards. I've had people that led me on, and then completely just vanished. Um, like went off grid kind of style. I've had people just pretty much literally is just keep showing up, regardless of the rejections, regardless of the no-shows, regardless of the people who were interested and no longer were, just continue to show up. Like that's like the best advice I could give, whether it's for podcasting, whether it's for anything, whatever it
For
is you're
me,
pursuing, both
for me,
personally
it's
or
like
professionally, just keep showing up.
yeah, for me, it's like you win some, you lose some mentality.
Yeah,
All right, this time it didn't go well with this guest. Fine, we move on to the next day.
yeah,
The next day, the next guest. It's like you win some, you lose some mentality.
yeah.
If this guest didn't, want to be a match, fine. I'll move on to the
And
next one.
and two, don't focus so much on that one guest because again, there's
Right.
8 billion people in this world,
Exactly. For me,
right? Like
like
it's like maybe I'm very spiritual, so if something didn't work out, there's a reason behind it.
yeah.
What that reason is, I don't know, but all I
No,
know is God, universe, whatever,
I
saw
believe
something and I did
that.
it.
I believe that because I seen, right, like I seen a lot of things in my, not related to disability, and I seen that certain things happen. Then I'm like, it was a bad situation, then it turned into something that you didn't expect. You found something better, so that's why I believe that because I seen
Yeah,
so many stuff like that. Like when someone going through something, then it's like all of a sudden things turn around like in a positive way. So that's why I feel like it happens for a reason. Maybe that wasn't the right guess. Maybe that person was gonna lead. It's gonna lead you to the right guess,
Yeah, that's right.
or it's something else. That we don't even we can assume stuff, but that's part of life that you. That's something about life that you never understand. Time will tell,
Yeah.
like they say.
Redirection is God's protection.
Exactly. There's something there that wasn't gonna work out or whatever. The situation is. What is the most rewarding part of sharing someone's story?
Highlighting the transformation of their story. I love to hear people's transformation stories. I
Yeah, I
love.
like.
Tell me
Yeah,
what you went through. Tell me
no,
how you overcame it.
honestly, I like that story. Like, 'cause I watch a lot of sports and stuff. And a lot of them have that story. How they, became a successful athlete
Yeah,
despite addiction, despite the fame. Sometimes you know causes harm to you, but sometimes like their story, like how they started from nothing and then they just became this phenomenon. And for me, it's like highlighting voices in the disability community. Not showing them as an inspirational. Shows them the harsh reality, the real reality. Not the assumption that people have about disability, not the
yeah,
inspirational things that they have people show disability individual as inspirational. I show like the harsh truth, not to be like, not to like make fun of the person with this, but actually show the person like, look, he goes through. This is the things that he goes through. This is the right, not what you guys assume. This is his reality, everyday reality.
yeah.
No sugarcoat. It is what it is. All right, final question. Who would be the ultimate dream guest for you on your channel? I already told you. I don't. The
So
biggest disability. You
so
know,
I have a few. So I'll give you
top
three.
five.
I'll give you like three out of reach, and
What
three
about
I
top
feel
five?
are my
No, just
top
give me a
five.
top five.
Okay,
I don't
top
care if
five.
it's. It
Okay,
doesn't matter
so
if it's a high reach or
so
anything.
two. I'm gonna say at least currently, like where I'm at, I'm gonna say is a Hail Mary of a guest. And I would love to seriously have Steve Harvey. That would be crazy.
That'll
And I
be
would
like the
love,
one.
and I would love to have Alan DeGeneres because those two talk show hosts transform my life in ways
All right,
beyond
you
I can
have
ever
two.
express my
All right, let's
gratitude.
go three. You still have
Now,
three
the
left.
other three that are, I'm gonna say within reach, but
I don't care if they're
it's
reach or
gonna
not.
take
Like
some,
whoever
yeah,
you want to put on the list.
these next three people are within reach, but are going to take some bit of a divine favor or luck. Is I would love
A
to have
gamble.
Bradley. I would love to have Bradley Martin. I would love to have Mike Malak, and which is Logan Paul's co-host, and I would love to have. I'm gonna say Anna de Guzman, and I say her
Alright.
just because I think like what she does as a female magician is the show's message extraordinary.
Interesting
Yeah,
guess.
it's
I
very
don't have a.
extraordinary.
I want to have like the biggest content creator in the disability community. Who it is, I don't even know. Honestly, guys, I don't even know. But I'm gonna do my research. And so I have. So every time they ask me who's your, I'll say the name of the person. If it's a he or a she, doesn't matter.
Yeah. Oh, and Jelly Roll. If I ever got Jelly Roll, that'd be crazy.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
I would love Jelly Roll. Yeah.
That's a hard one. I like the first two guests, honestly.
Yeah.
Two public figures of television.
Yeah.
That'll be-
Be
All
huge.
right, I'll finish it up. All right, we'll finish it up, guys. Bringing guests onto our separate platform involves a lot more than simply sending an invitation like you guys saw and pressing record. It takes research, preparation, scheduling, communication, and finding people whose stories connect with the purpose of each of our channels. Even though Victor and I may have different systems involving interviewing style, we both want our goals to feel respected, comfortable, and proud of the conversation we create with our guests. We hope this episode gives you a better look at what happened behind the scenes and help you understand the work that goes into every interview, even this podcast as well. Interview you see on the platform. Thank you for listening to another episode of Unfiltered with Reyes and Victor. Be sure to follow both of us on our separate channels. Stay tuned for more honest conversation, special guests, if we ever have a guest, and behind the scenes discussion. Remember, grow through what you go through. And I'll just end it with MD Warrior out. Until next time.